on takeover, how do you manage the takeover smoothly and ensure quality of service? The third one is what happens to the electricity supply industry, and especially the distribution sector. How do you rearrange it after the takeover once everything has come down? So during this process, government's plan had been that the government distribution company, which is Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, begins to invest some amounts of money in the Umeme area, such that the amount of money being invested by Umeme is less, and the buyout amount eventually at the end of the concession, 31st of March next year, will not be as much. Two, the interaction between Umeme, UEDCL and Umeme has already begun, where they're working together to make sure that they're transiting, the takeover process is ongoing as we speak. So it's not waiting for the 31st of March and you say, hi, shake hands, here is the keys to the office. No, the process has already begun. They are working together, the training, the capacity building, the auditing of all the systems is ongoing as we speak. Come the 31st of March, Umeme still has certain obligations that they will continue to undertake after they have handed over to UEDCL. So the plan is hand over to the government company, which is Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. UEDCL will be in the transition, take over from Umeme, while preparing for some form of arrangement which might involve the private partner. But going forward, after Umeme has left, government will be a player in the main distribution network that Umeme has been running. And we intend to get a private player as well to combine with the government so that we have kind of a triple P system. That's what we are looking into. Now, the details of which are being studied now in a second generation power sector reform study and will be out maybe in a few months' time once the study is completed. Now, that is the plan for government. Will it go as smoothly as is required? That is very challenging to say because it is not only the wires and the transformers that are being handed over. There are many other things that need to be handed over in this process. Human resource. UEDCL now is about 460 employees. Umeme is 2,500. How do you transition that human resource? So first plan is to absorb most of those 2,500 into UEDCL. That is the first thing. But you also need to look at the salary disparities, the remuneration. Umeme is paying as a private company. UEDCL is a public company. Will they be able to absorb? Now we have experiences. This is not the first takeover. In the generation sector, we've already taken over the Jinja Complex, Naruwa Chira power plants. Here in Namambe, we took over the thermal power plants from Jacobsen. We have already taken over a number of distribution companies under the distribution entity. Some of you may remember there used to be a FADSALT here. It's no longer here. In some of the places you come from, there's a PACMEX, there's a CREX. There are many other distribution players in different service territories that UEDCL has already taken over. So it's an experience that we have, but Umeme is a really big, huge animal. It will take a little more knives to skin it than the other ones that we have taken over before. So we have to look at such things. The UEDCL budget, can government provide sufficient funding through the budget to support the network that is there? The supply chain, Umeme already has their supply chain. How do we adopt that? How do we take that in? Will the terms and conditions of government be able to support that? The procurement speeds, government procurement speed are a bit slower than the private sector. So it is something that we are looking into. How do we maintain procurement of parts? Because if your transformer blows out and the procurement is taking the normal process that the government wants to take, you're going to be in darkness for a very long time. So we need to match the procurement times, and we're looking at doing that right now as we work together. Even the vendors, the special vendors as Umeme has been using, we need to pass that entire vendor list to government. And other assets, it's not just the wires and the transformers, they are the trucks, the cars, the spare parts, among others, that are even the offices. So the work has started, but on 31st of March, it will be handing over to UEDCL. Then after that, we shall now go to the real restructuring of what the distribution network will look like. Now, regarding the private sector, of course, the issue of how will UEDCL perform in terms of commercial losses, in terms of collection rates. UEDCL currently have, from our experience of the concessions that they have taken over, they're performing quite well. They're collecting 100% too. They are working on distribution losses, and they are largely below what the regulatory targets are, but they need to be supported. Any supported with human resource, with equipment, with budget to be able to sustain this. So government has a role to play. UEDCL is looking at investing $70 million annually for some time, at least for 5 years, before you can have that new partner, before the new partner is identified and comes on board. Now, regarding access, Of course, access affects all of us because each of us needs power or some form of lighting or heating or locomotion in their home. And all these use energy in different types of forms. But I think in this specific access, he's quoting that or electricity specifically. So electricity access can be achieved in 3 different ways. One, you could just expand the grid closest to you, and you get from the national grid that's existing. 2, we could build a mini grid within your area, and we have a small power plant connecting different households in a small area, like the case of Kalangal and the others. Or we could give you other solutions that are off-grid solutions that also provide you with electricity. Maybe you look at Tier 1 solutions, solar lanterns or the others, or standalone home systems, solar heating, solar electricity. So those are the approaches we're using. The 20% that is here in the question is grid access, which is about 22%. But we have up to 38% that is not grid access, which brings it to about 60% nationally. So what matters is the service, not the line. Many people are more concerned about the line that comes to their house. It is not the line that you need, it is the light that you need. It is not the line that you need, it is the heat that you need. It is not the line that you need, it's the cooked food that you need. Not so? It's the service that you need. So if there are other alternative ways to get that service, then we will still consider you as having access, as long as those are clean ways similar to electricity. So we're rolling out the electricity access scale-up project, among others, targeting up to nearly 1 million connection and 5 million people beneficiaries within the next 5 years, among others. We have many other projects within the Rural Electrification Department that are lined up to extend access. Where the grid cannot reach, we're looking at mini grids. Where the mini grids and the grid cannot reach, we're looking at off-grid solutions like standalone solar systems, Tier 1 solutions, solar lanterns, and the others. Of course, these have challenges in terms of getting the right quality of solar equipment, getting the right quality of Tier 1 solutions, but this is how we are going to grow access from where we are to where we are not. But access is useless if the reliability is bad. So while we're working at access, we must make sure that you are not having low voltages. And we have to improve the quality of the voltages, we have to improve the reliability, and you must have it at most of the times. Finally, on the issue of how do you maintain collection rates, just to go back to that, prepaid metering is one of the ways and in which you can support. Because in a prepaid system, you pay before you use. And therefore, the chances that you are collecting more than in a post system that we had in the UEB days is higher. So we are encouraging that whatever expansions we are going to, we go through a prepaid system. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for that very elaborate explanation. I'll quickly go on to the nuclear energy. Most of you don't know what's happening in the nuclear energy, but there's a lot happening. As you're aware, the training has happened for many to train staff. But maybe what I'll ask is, nuclear is very sensitive worldwide. And so the focus is on the legal and institutional framework. How do we ensure that we can utilize nuclear energy within a good, strong legal and institutional framework to support that transition to nuclear energy? And remember, I think there's already been mentioned that's one of those sources that we're looking at to grow our energy base. And then the other thing, of course, is there has been a plan, I think, for a 1,000 megawatt nuclear energy plant. From what I read, I think it's commencing 2031. How prepared is the government, and what steps will the government take to ensure that that plant is not only safe, but it is also environmentally secure? Now, the plant, as you know, nuclear we have had instances of Fukushima and Chernobyl where they are blown out. So the question is, what is there to protect us? Do we have the competencies? And then, of course, what other plans does the government have with regards to adoption of nuclear energy? So over to you, Sarah, and also...
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I will take on the first question, issue of legal, institutional, and regulatory framework. I'm a scientist and a lawyer. I did industrial chemistry at Makerere University, and I did Master of Laws in Yanji University, nuclear law. So I was started from first principle. First principle educators became a member of the National Agency, 1967. That's why we started talking about atomic energy in this country. So after talking about that, we had a vessel which was put in Abuja, 1973, had the Atomic Energy Act 1973, put the Atomic Energy Control Board. And afterwards, this was repealed by the Atomic Energy Act 2008. Atomic Energy Act 2008 had three prime things that are supposed to do. But before we go to the Atomic Energy Act, had Energy Policy 2002, which provided for establishment of the Atomic Energy Council. When we had a policy 2002, we got the Act 2008, which put in place the Atomic Energy Council. It's one of the institutions that we're talking about. One of the other things that the Atomic Energy Act did for us was that it put in place a nuclear energy unit, which I was the first head of this unit in 2009. So it's the way it happened. The Atomic Energy Act 2008 had two institutions created. We created the Atomic Energy Council, which is a regulator, and nuclear energy unit, the Ministry of Energy, to develop nuclear power. As one of the steps of operationalizing this unit, we had to take people to school. I'm not always taken to school at Michael Ikea. We went to school to study nuclear. I studied nuclear and my friends studied nuclear engineering. He came back and we started work. Started work on a law. What was the law provided for us to do? Was to produce a strategy which will receive nuclear power in this country. We did a strategy and what we call a roadmap strategy approved by Cabinet 2014. This strategy had one of the proposals of having institutional framework of having a steering committee, and working groups which were able to work towards getting a roadmap for nuclear power in the country. This work has been done very well. After producing this, we were able to get a roadmap draft document, which was probably approved. And then we are moving on to start implementing this roadmap. And one of the implementation of this roadmap is reviewing the Act, reviewing the Atomic Energy Act, because Atomic Energy Act 2008 had its focus as in radiation. And the radiation is applications in medicine, industry, and applications of nuclear power. Now when you go to nuclear power, we're talking about nuclear material. When you're talking about nuclear material, you enter into areas with national concern about making bombs and all the like. So we had to look at it, ask very well, look at what we need to do. One of the things we need to do is to pay many acts, but also access to many intellectual instruments. One of them is it's called Convention on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Usually on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT, we became members. So in this treaty, we are supposed to recognize nuclear weapon states such as U.S., Russia, China, France, and Britain. And members of India, Pakistan, and Israel. And the rest are nuclear weapon states, while we are allowed to make nuclear weapons. We as Ghana, we are not allowed to make nuclear weapons. So it shouldn't be right that we are having nuclear weapons in the country. We won't have nuclear weapons. We have power for peaceful reasons. Which we look at the treaty of nuclear safety. Convention on nuclear safety. Convention looks at a country having a real body, real nuclear power, and have trained staff. So this treaty is very important. We have putting in consideration when doing amendments. When amendment, we also look at nuclear security. Nuclear security is where we have physical protection of nuclear material. We have a treaty of physical protection of nuclear material. We have to also be by the gas. Very parties for nuclear safety convention. So we think so it's only time for us to become members. Because when you become a member, we have to be able to go on many meetings and so it costs to become a member before you become before you start using medical material. So we are putting anything in our law. We are putting anything in our law. We are having the amendment which is going to take care of in case of safeguards when you make sure IAEA is the American agents. The Ocho. What most of you know is as a Ocho or as American agent. But it's an organization that has our work is as like technical cooperation. My God, you talk about it. When we get commission in the country, we do some waivers or whatever aspect of nuclear. So when you talk about framework, what I'm getting is nuclear energy. Energy has been driving the department. After doing the work, when we realize that we have a work where we give us a chance to become a department Ministry of Energy. We have the council, which is a regulator for the application in the country. We also have a NIPU. A NIPU is a nuclear implementing organization of a new country. We have what we call a NIPU. We have a cabinet committee, which has members of cabinet in ministry like Works, Ministry of Energy, being a chairperson, and Ministry of Defense, of Health, and Ministry beyond the cabinet committee. Part is the steering committee, which is chaired by a PS of Energy, PS of the ministry here in the cabinet steering committee. And we have 3 working groups. Have a pressure and legal working group and human resource working group. The groups work together. We use people from around a country, different ministries to be able to work with us, to give us technical expertise. Everyone have to go to a place to get expertise. We have like for environmentalists, we need engineers, we need lawyers, we need environmentalists, we need different people we need. So we use this kind of approach to be able to have nuclear power developed. As we know, we have done a lot of work. My colleague will be able to tell you what we'll be able to do as having a nuclear power plant and set up for nuclear technology and so which we say a contract we say building. Thank you very much. I don't know about my friend be able to give us a continuation. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I'll also ask Damari to, you're supporting Sarah. Can also go on to explain further.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Can you?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nuclear energy is a form of energy where we harness heat energy from the reaction of nuclear materials, mainly uranium and thorium, which is used world over. As my commissioners just said, we have a legal framework where it hints from Energy Policy 2002, which led to the introduction of the subject of nuclear to have the Atomic Energy Act 2008 enacted. And for our Atomic Energy Act, mainly looked at ionizing radiation, and it had institutions which were established, the Nuclear Energy Unit, which is now a department in the Ministry of Energy for promotion and development of nuclear power. Then the Atomic Energy Council to regulate the applications of ionizing radiation. Currently, as you've heard from other speakers, we have the energy policy, which talks about the development of a sustainable environment for development of nuclear power. And that's where we have our Atomic Energy Bill 2004, where we are working with the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs, Justice and Constitutional Affairs, to help us complete this bill. Currently, we have Also, Uganda has signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which allows us to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, which we are currently using in the medical sector, in agriculture, water, and in the industry. So, as the government of Uganda, for the institutional framework, we have talked about the Nuclear Energy Department within the Ministry of Energy to give policy direction, promotion, and development of the nuclear power plants. And the Atomic Energy Council to regulate the sector. And for future, Uganda, we are also advocating to have a Uganda National Nuclear Company to manage the government interests for nuclear power development as world over. And also, we have what we call the Nuclear Energy Program Implementing Organization, where we have working groups, and it's headed by the Cabinet Standing Committee on Nuclear Energy with 10 ministers represented there. And then we have the steering committee, which has the permanent secretaries and CEO of different MDAs, and also the working groups, which is the legal and regulatory working group, the siting and technology working group, and then the human resource development, where the Nuclear Energy Department rightly works as the secretariat to support the works. So for now, since 2009, when this department became vibrant and young people were taken to study and understand, where we are part of that group which actually went, we have been able to do a lot of work to start the business. One is to review the legal framework so that we can be able to talk about now the Atomic Energy Bill 2004, which gives us the space, international space, to start talking about nuclear power development. Unlike in the first law of Atomic Energy Act, which was just on ionizing radiation. These two in the sphere of nuclear, they are all different. So that's where we are at the moment. So as government, we have signed up a number of MOUs with different experienced nuclear vendors world over. We have an MOU and an IGA with Russia to work with their company, Rosatom. And we also have another MOU with China to work with their company, the CNNC. We also have another one with South Korea, KCNP, to do some technical studies, but also to note that many Ugandans have been trained also in that area, and South Korea, to understand nuclear power technology. As government, we have what we call a country program framework with the International Atomic Energy Agency, where we are able to do a lot of projects in different spheres. Apart from nuclear power, we have a lot of medical projects, water, and agriculture. So there are different uses of nuclear power. So we invite you to come and visit us on 3rd floor of Amber House to understand more, or we shall be invited to talk more on this subject. So what we have also been able to do, we have conducted a number of studies to understand what we call the 19 infrastructure issues, where the International Atomic Energy Agency, in its document of milestones which a country needs to achieve before moving on to nuclear power. These include national position, what's our position as a country, the legal and infrastructure, the sites, surveys, the human resource, local industrial involvement, funding and financing, radioactive waste, regulation, among others. So there are about 19. So we're able to do preliminary studies for the different spheres with the working groups. And in 2021, we're able to receive the Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review Mission, which came to assess our work and find and assess how far we had gone in the different 19 areas. So with that, we actually still receive expert missions on different aspects. For example, we have had a number of expert missions on for site surveys to understand how we can choose the best area for our nuclear power plant. Those one we have had 2017 and recently in 2023. And we continue receiving different experts. So with this, we are able to do a lot of site survey studies. And the 4 chosen areas were Buyende, Nakasongola, Chihula, and Lamu, because we are looking at a country of Uganda as a region of interest. So that means we developed an area like a criteria. So government is also looking at the different things which you have to do. For example, just last year we concluded our strategic environment assessment, where Ministry of Works and Ministry of Water and Environment, NEMA, participated as other stakeholders to understand what the program, what impact it will have on the entire country. We are also planning a resettlement action plan for our host districts, especially in the district of Buyende. This is already ongoing, and we pray that the kickoff will happen very soon in this quarter. The other is we are planning to have site evaluations. Currently, we initiated procurement with our partners KHNP to carry out technical studies to understand the geology of the area which we have chosen, but that will also help us in reactor studies. One is to also design against any eventualities, especially like earthquakes. World over, we design against that, so it may look expensive in the end, but for the safety, we have to take it into consideration. We are looking at generation 3+ reactors, so we are conducting a reactor assessment study to understand the different aspects that we need as going forward for our reactors. Then we are also planning for site-specific environmental strategic impact assessments for the different projects under nuclear. So what government has done, as you've heard before, we have a number of institutions that we have been established. One in the Nuclear Energy Department, the Atomic Energy Council. So we are working on strengthening these two to make sure we are ready for the nuclear power program. The other we have also done is we have trained Ugandans. About now, we have about 30 Ugandans trained and placed at the regulator and in the ministry. And we also have many who are on different programs in Russia, South Korea, China, and the UK, among others. Also, we also train in Ghana and Egypt. So we are doing these trainings to make sure that we have enough Ugandans. But also we are taking into recognition that we have a human resource development plan so that people just don't float, but they are placed rightly as the program develops. So what government is also doing is setting up a Center for Nuclear Science and Technology at Soroti University. And just yesterday, we're happy to announce that we're able to sign a contract with INVAP, Argentina, to help us in the site evaluation and also completing the designs for that center. This center will have a research reactor for training, but also be able to produce radioisotopes for medical treatment. Currently, we are picking our radioisotopes from South Africa, which is kindly costly, so government has found a way to be sustainable, but also help its Ugandans who have a lot of cancer burden. So the other thing we have also done, we are putting a lot of international trainings for both cadres, for masters and also conferences and also short trainings to keep our members alert. Then we have also done a lot of environmental safeguards to make sure that our project is safe, through the siting survey studies, we're able to take note that the Ramsar sites, areas were in the rift valleys were avoided. And around our nuclear power projects, we are designing that we shall have a buffer of 20 kilometers away from the water source. As you know, Buyende is near the Kyoga, Lake Kyoga, so we are trying to have the power plant far away from so that we can be able to look at any other eventualities. So we are having emergency planning zones to make sure we plan for the people around and also those ones who are far away so that we can be able to decrease any emergencies during any incidences that may happen. So as government of Uganda, we are prepared and working since 2009. We have a lot, and under our nuclear power project, we have also had, drafting a nuclear power roadmap to be able to understand which resources will government have to give us at the different areas as we come to 2031. Then the other one, just recently in April, we had the integrated uranium review mission to look at our uranium. As we have said, the resource we are looking at is uranium, so we wanted to understand the different processes. Of course, uranium has been discovered in Bweju and Sembabule, and we are still understanding the grade of our uranium so that we can move forward. So I think that's what we have done. Maybe what we are going to do as we go forward, we look forward to adopting more international conventions for nuclear power so that we can have a robust system that can allow us operate in nuclear in a safe zone. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sarah and Damali. If you notice, we may need a whole CLE, or just understanding nuclear. There's a lot happening. That in itself is a huge, huge area that is coming up, and it's going to be really, really important going forward for our energy transition plans. Now, as we wind up, I will have to pick on Loyola, who is not very blessed to be at the very tail end of this whole process. We want to close this shortly. Quickly, just tell us very, very briefly. You may have to cut short what you've prepared, what's happening in the mineral law space, and maybe you could point us to regulation and the legal framework. Just point it to us. We shall be able to go and read it on our own. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can just pass.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, colleagues. Yes, I have the blessing of speaking last, so I hope that works. And I like to put mining and minerals into context because, as you've heard from my colleagues who are engineers, economists, geochemists, geophysicists, it's difficult for the public or even for lawyers to understand the importance of energy and minerals when it's not related to your daily lives. So if I'll ask a very direct question. How many people have smartphones? Oh, only two. Only two people in this room of advocates hold smartphones. If you put up your smartphone has over 30 minerals in it. 30. Between 30 and 40 minerals are in your smartphone. Mr. Njala has those. Yes, that's what I like to do, to catch people off guard, so that we are paying attention. These things we call extra eyes on his face. Spectacles or glasses, correct? What material are they made of? No idea. Sorry? Which ones? Okay, which material? Fine, in the interest of time, the frame is most likely steel, maybe. But then forgive me for putting you in such a category. Maybe it's gold. I don't know, it does look. If it's not steel, steel comes from iron ore. The glass is made from sand, or a kind of sand called silica. The point is, every single aspect of our daily lives includes a mineral. If you're a lady or a gentleman and you're wearing jewelry, it's most likely copper or stainless steel from iron ore. Of course, except Rachel, who's wearing some diamonds. There's a saying, if it's not grown, it's mined. Anything you use in your daily life, if it's not grown, is mined. So having understood the context and the importance of minerals, both in our daily lives at a micro and macro level, then I'll answer your question directly, Martin. So what are the recent developments in mineral law? Many of you may be aware the current primary law related to mining is the Mining and Minerals Act 2022, which came into force in October 2022. It repealed and replaced the Mining Act of 2003. Under that law, several regulations have since been enacted. There are licensing regulations of 2023, export of iron ore of 2024, export and import of tin purity levels 2024, and export of refined gold 2024. There's also a set of regulations known as the International Convention on the Great Lakes Region, implementation of the Pact on Security, Stability and Development, prevention of the illegal exploitation of and illicit trade of minerals. In summary, that law, which we often refer to as the ICGLR, are regulations that came into force in 2023 to implement a regional certification mechanism for what we call designated minerals. Designated minerals are 4 minerals, tin, tantalum, tungsten, and gold, commonly called the 3TG. This is what some used to be called conflict minerals. Minerals and mining is often directly related to stability and security of a country. So as the Great Lakes region are 12 countries around the African Great Lakes, we developed a legal regime to certify minerals, to ensure that the mining and exploitation of those 4 minerals is not contributing to conflict. I'm pretty sure you're all aware of the situation going on in the DRC, so the intention is to protect the countries around that. That's a summary of the primary legal regime related to mining. But the nature of mining law is that minerals don't, exist in a vacuum. So there are several other laws which directly affect, implement, and are necessary for mining. All the environment laws apply. There are several obligations around environmental and social impact assessments for mining projects. Land laws, as you know, constitutionally, the ownership of minerals and natural resources is placed in the state, is vested in the states on behalf of the Republic of Uganda. So the mineral belongs to government, but the land belongs to the people. So access to minerals requires land access or surface rights. So the land laws and the land law regime applies very directly to mining projects. All laws related to natural resources, including forests, wetlands, game reserves, national parks, rivers, mountains, all these often work closely with mining projects. And then the commercial laws. Tax and the collection of revenue is very important for us as a country to be benefiting from our minerals. And so all this really are the recent developments as far as law and policy is concerned. So I will quickly also then talk about the regulation of the sector. Mining is progressive, and obviously the first step is to acquire the right license to operate in this sector. It's a regulated sector. So the license application process is done by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, and it's entirely an online process now. It's entirely an online system. So having applied the requirements for various licenses are well listed in the laws and regulations. So when one applies, then I may acquire a license. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development is also the regulator of the sector and inspects, monitors, and enforces that license holders are, committing their obligations and complying with the same. The law of 2022 introduced new areas of business. Mr. Kato talked about geothermal resources, and having understood the immense economic potential of geothermal resources, under the Mining and Minerals Act, one may exploit geothermal resources for direct use, what we call direct use. This includes aquaculture, horticulture, natural spas. All these are examples of how geothermal resources are used directly. So this is new business, which one can do, which your clients may be interested in, and which definitely requires legal advice and regulation. In addition to that, there's also business in the downstream end of the mineral value chain. That's around processing, refining, and smelting. For a very long time, African countries, ourselves included, have simply extracted our minerals and exported them to the Western world or to mineral-consuming countries. But now government's direction, and in fact the entire African direction, as reflected in the African Union, what is called the African Mining Vision, is to add value. We get a better price, we collect more revenue when we process our minerals. So along that line, one may now do business in simply processing. You have no interest in mining and extracting, but you get a license simply to process or to refine or to smelt. Again, new areas of business and new opportunities for legal work, for legal and technical work. As far as, yes, another major development is with relation to national participation. It's recognized, there's a term I'm sure everyone in this room has heard before, sometimes referred to as the resource curse or mining curse. An aspect of that issue is when countries don't gain as much as they should from their natural resources, especially from their minerals. When a country is not collecting as much revenue as it should, so that instead the exploitation of minerals then lead to underdevelopment or take a country back instead of leading to progress. So one major aspect is for the country, for the state to be able to directly participate in the industry and derive additional benefits. So that is what, as a country, Uganda, we are doing. There are a few aspects of state participation. One example is, as a financial tool, is state equity participation. So the country can have a percentage of ownership in a mining license. So it is not entirely left to the private developer. This ownership will be managed by the Uganda National Mining Company. The 2022 law established a Uganda National Mining Company. The panel before on oil and gas explained what the National Oil Company does. It's similar, but for the purposes of minerals and mining. So that the National Mining Company will manage the commercial interests of the state in projects that that the country has interest in. This will inevitably lead to higher revenue. In a nutshell, a lot is happening in the mining sector. The technical expertise in the mining sector is heavy, is well established, especially on the public side, as far as geologists, engineers, geochemists, geophysicists are concerned. For decades, Makerere University, Bustema universities, and several, University of Dar es Salaam, and several other institutions have been training the scientific technical expertise necessary for the mining sector. Now is the time for other professions to do the same. Now, a mining project is so holistic that it's not only about extracting the mineral, or it's not only about, say, identifying and knowing where it is. So many legal issues, financial issues, community issues arise, and these require legal, finance, business, economic, social work, community liaison expertise, which then means it's an opportunity for Ugandans to build capacity, but also a business opportunity, especially for a fraternity like the Uganda Law Society. I think I will stop there in the interest of time, unless say something more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank the panel that has been, my whole panel showed up, so you've had the benefit of a lot of knowledge in a very short time. We do not have much time. The function at the tent has more or less started, but it's only fair in 1 or 2 minutes. If there's just, I know Mr. Njala wants me to cut it out, but let's have 2 questions and we close it out here, if at all there are any. If they are not there, we will release you. Okay, so I can tell the anxiety about the next stage. So I will want to thank the team, the panel that came in. I want to thank the Ministry of Energy that has released everyone that showed up here this afternoon. There's a lot of opportunity for you to be able to learn. So please feel free, you can pick up contacts. If you need to visit the nuclear department, you can always visit it. The Ministry of Energy, please feel free to follow up. If there are any questions, they can be sent to the particular panelists in your free time. I want to thank everybody, thank ULS for this time. And above all, I think, Ms. Angela, do you have an announcement to make? I think I'll hand over to Ms. Angela. Thank you.
Well, I must really thank you very much. You were the best panel to choose for a climax. You were pleasant and straight on point in many ways. We want to thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you, dear participants. That brings us to the end of the first phase, because the next phase involves swallowship and fellowship. I hope you're ready for the next phase. Our cocktail will be down at the lakeside, just below the parking. You see that parking lot? There is a route that goes down just by the lakeside. Yes.
Thank you, Simon. Let's first release our panelists and have them over to the photo booth. Our media personalities, photographers, kindly come and let's have this picture for the panelists. Yes. We shall use the booth on my left. And thank you so much, Ministry of Energy. Thank you, our panelists, and they all turned up. This has been one of the biggest panels. Maybe we thank the moderator for the mobilization. I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but since he's the leader, we shall give him the thanks. Well, as they take their photo, I'll also add my voice to Mr. Njala's to thank you all for sitting through these 2 days of the conference, for attending. I take this opportunity to thank our online viewers. I even forget about them, but people kept calling me. We're seeing you doing your thing. We're watching from office. By the way. We did it.
Maybe we also deserve a round of applause. If we bored you, clap for us. If we pulled it off, clap for us still. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Now we shall continue with the normal program of the day, concluding this with special thanks to our sponsor of the next session. Would you like to announce that?
Who is sponsor?
Can you guess? It can't be
a bank,
it can't be Total Energies, it can't be URA.
Should be Uganda Breweries.
Thank you.
Oh, well. There's a lot in stock for us.
Open bar.
Let's drink, dance, network, share,
Yes.
and get a
Responsibly.
bit crazy. There's no problem. It's a Friday. It's a Friday. We
Yes,
want to thank you
indeed.
dearly. And can we close this?
We are closing this. And these are my final remarks. Then I hand over to my co-MC.
Yes.
We thank the Secretariat, Uganda Law Society, for organizing this. We thank participants, panelists, delegates, and all the guests. We thank the lawyers for attending in big numbers. Clap for yourselves, honestly. And I particularly thank those who have stayed until this point. As we have different panels ongoing, I still see that because the numbers are many, even the ones who remain for this panel session are quite many. I remain Anita Nantale Kalema, Partner Africa's Advocates, Deputy Chairperson, Female Lawyers Committee of the Uganda Law Society. It was a pleasure.
And I remain Simon Kagwanjala, an alien to land friends. What a pleasure. Let's go down and have fun. Cheers.
Oh, the cocktail, one more, please. The cocktail is by the beach, please. The beach, do not go to Jahazi Pier, the next door beach. No. When you go to, yes, towards the parking lot, there is a view of the water. That's the place we are talking about. So let's all head there. Thank you.
I never understand. I must confess, your body